Thank you. By the way, Elaine, love your little screenshot thing. Oh, you over there? Say everybody. Not good. I've got 1:59. I think we'll give people a couple minutes before we get started. And I think since this is the first meeting in a while, I think I'm gonna kind of take some leeway and do quick little introductions after we get started. Hey, maybe give people just another minute. And you are going to record this, correct?
Yes.
Okay. There's Brett. Didn't want to start without you, Brett.
Looks like I made it just in the nick of time.
You did. Okay, it is 2:01, so I will go ahead and get started. Welcome subcommittee members and members of the public to this March 12th, 2025 Governor's Workforce Development Board Strategic Planning Subcommittee meeting. For the record, my name is Nancy Olson, Chair of the Strategic Planning Subcommittee. Tiffany, will you please take roll call, confirm a quorum, and verify posting?
Tiffany Vasquez with the Office of Workforce Innovation for the record. Let's see, I have Chair Olson,
Here.
Vice Chair Estepona. He said he might be 30 minutes late. Brett Miller,
Here.
John Perrell, Milt Stewart,
Here.
okay, Robert Fink,
Present.
Ariana Florence,
Here.
David Schmidt,
Here.
and Dr. Tiffany Tyler Garner.
Present.
Okay, so Tiffany Vasquez again for the record. There is currently not a quorum at this time. I know that Chair Estepona might be late, so should we proceed on the items allowing discussion only and noting that no action or votes can be taken until we have a quorum?
Nancy Olson for the record. Yes, I think that's fine. Okay, continuing on to agenda item number 4, public comments. Members of the public are invited to provide comments at this time. No action may be taken on any matters during public comments until the matter itself has been included on an agenda as an item for possible action. For anybody who would like to make a public comment, please visit zoom.com and enter the meeting ID 815-2673-9145. You can also dial in at 669-900-6833. The meeting ID is 815-2673-9145, and the passcode is 322709. Do we have any public comment on the phone? Not seeing any. Do we have any on Zoom? Okay, not hearing or seeing any. Okay, we will skip item number 5 until at least Edward joins us.
I see Edward.
Oh, is he here?
Yes, so real quick, Tiffany Vasquez for the record. I hereby affirm that this March 12th Governor's Workforce Development Board Strategic Planning Subcommittee meeting has reached a quorum. I further affirm that the agenda and notice for this meeting was properly posted pursuant to Nevada's open meeting law NRS 241020.
Thank you, Tiffany. Nancy Olson for the record. Moving on to agenda item number 5. Is there any discussion before I call for a motion to approve the September 11th, 2024 Strategic Planning Subcommittee meeting minutes? Hearing no further discussion, I call for a motion to approve the meeting minutes. Okay, I'd say
Dave Schmidt, I'll make the motion.
Thank you, David. Second?
Edward Espona, second.
Thank you, Edward. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Please let the record reflect that the motion carries. As I mentioned, I am going to take just a little leeway because this is the first meeting that we've had since September 11th, and we have some new individuals in attendance. So I would like to take just a quick few minutes to do introductions. I'm Nancy Olson. I oversee the adult education program for the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, Adult Education and Family Literacy Act, otherwise known as Title II of WIOA. Tiffany, would you introduce yourself?
Tiffany Vasquez for the record. I am now the management analyst to the GWDB liaison. I came from Dieter, but it's nice to be here with you all.
Thank you. David?
I'm David Schmidt. I am with Dieter. I'm the chief economist for the Research and Analysis Bureau, and we do employment and unemployment data in just about every flavor you can imagine.
Thank you. Ariana?
Sorry, I had to unmute. Good afternoon, Ariana Florence. I work under Nancy, her right hand, left hand, whichever one she needs for the day. Been here for a couple of the iterations of the state plan, so looking forward to keep working on it.
Thank you. Edward?
Edward Estepona. I am a governor workforce board member in the private sector.
Thank you. Tiffany Tyler Garner.
Good afternoon, Dr. Tiffany Tyler Garner, formerly with the City of Las Vegas, where I'm responsible for spearheading the workforce development and social initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lawson.
Good afternoon. I'm Director of Human Resources for Sunshine Minting and recently appointed to the Governor's Workforce Development Board. So I feel privileged to be part of this.
Welcome, welcome. Brett.
Hello, I'm Brett Miller, Strategic Analysis Manager at Workforce Connections, the Southern Nevada Workforce Development Board.
Thank you. Robbie.
My name is Robbie Fink. I'm Director of the Adult Education Services at Catholic Charities under Title II.
Thank you. Milt.
Hi, Milt Stewart from Nevada Works. Nevada Works is the local workforce development board for Northern Nevada.
Thank you. Cheryl.
Sorry, Cheryl Olson, Strategic Projects Director at Nevada Works.
And no relation, by the way. Hers is spelled wrong. Okay. And I'm not sure, Kresge, I don't know what the B is. Brenda, Barbara, you can help me out.
Hi, it's Brenda Kresge from Nevada Works.
Thank you. Okay, and Elaine?
I'm Elaine Rodriguez. I'm the Administrative Assistant with the Governor's Workforce, or Office of Workforce Innovation. Thank you.
Thank you. And Kim?
Hi, I'm Kim Jadidi. I am with the WIS office here in Northern Nevada.
Thank you. Sarah?
Hi, my name is Sarah Millett. I work for Caesars Entertainment and I'm part of the business board.
Thank you. Okay, Armando. We're doing short introductions, Armando.
All right. Short and sweet, Armando Leyva, State of Nevada Welfare Division, Workforce Development Unit. My chief, Mike Yoder, unable to make it today, so I'm just sitting in.
Thank you. Okay, and I think Madison.
Hi, I'm with the Workforce Innovation and Support Services, and I'm just taking notes for our chief.
Thank you. And looks like David Gardner, who is our DAG, Deputy Attorney General, is still connecting to audio. Okay. So with that, we will go ahead and move on to agenda item number 6. For discussion and informational item only, I'll lead a discussion on revisions to the strategic plan. Now, not to be confused with the state plan, about a year ago now, there was a plan that was put together initially with input from some of the core partners, but it kind of went from that to some changes that we were all surprised about and somewhat concerned with. So we have been asked by the new chair of the board, Mr. Don Soderberg, to take a fresh look at this and see what needs to be changed for this to be realistic, to include input from those that are boots on the ground, really implementing a lot of this. So I will start by, if I can share my screen. Oh, yeah, Tiffany Vasquez, could you please let me share my screen?
Hold on one moment, technical difficulties. Sorry.
Hi. Yeah, I'll go ahead and say that in the official state plan that is currently approved, we set up 4 overarching goals. The idea behind the strategic plan initially was to take those overarching goals and build strategies and measures that could drive the implementation of the activities in the state plan. Somewhere along the way, there were some changes, and the timeframes that were included in the strategic plan were really kind of out there as far as being realistic. So like I said, our new Governor's Workforce Development Board Chair has asked that this committee work on taking what we have both in the state plan and the strategic plan and figuring out what changes need to be made to make it more realistic and more workable. So with that, can I share yet?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So let me start off with what ended up out of the group that worked on this last year, culminating in July 17th. Can you see my screen okay with the gold strategic plan? Okay, thank you. Okay. So as I mentioned, we originally had 4 overarching goals. The overarching goals that we had one did deal with population, one dealt with alignment. The third one was collaboration. Now, the collaboration involved in the state plan had to do with those core partners that have been tasked by law to work together to best serve the citizens of Nevada. This got changed to focus on businesses within the system and not the core partners. So the other thing that happened with this, and I'm not trying to criticize, but with somewhat of a lack of input from those that are day-to-day carrying out the work, there ended up with some unrealistic items in here. So don't worry about looking at this because there's other screens that break it down. So they had 3 strategies under population. Part of the problem had to do with the time frame. So in some cases, they had December of 24, they had February of 25. In some cases, I think there were even tighter timeframes than that, even though it was things that could involve contracts. If you're familiar at all with working at the state, trying to get a contract through in even just 3 months is very difficult at best. And it's more realistic that contract is not going to go through for 6 months. So the timeframes were one of the issues. The other was the execution team. In many cases, the listed execution team included things that don't fall under the state plan, or they don't fall under the workforce system. Or they do fall under the workforce system, but there's no teeth to getting that participation. So like, for instance, there's some of these that say NSHE will be part of the execution team. Well, although NSHE or the community colleges are a required partner, there's not anything that we can go and say, you have to do this. We don't have that authority. So that was, and more problematic is, in some cases, these individuals, these entities were not included in getting feedback or investment buy-in to this. So we want to look at the original goals that we had in the state plan, how those original goals fit into these, and whether or not the strategies fit in, and then go from there as far as what needs to be done to make these workable. You know, my original view, or my original vision, I suppose, of this document was, how do we take what we say we're going to do in the state plan and implement it? And make, you know, accountability for the implementation a part of it. And it really got shifted from that to this document. So, as I said, population, 3 strategies. Then you go to engagement, and you've got the 2 strategies here. But again, you've got, like, for instance, here on cross promote workforce services with common business serving agencies, which is great. However, can you really say Department of Taxation and the Secretary of State are going to be on the execution team? I mean, I think that's a pretty hard sell. So I think that, you know, there's things that we need to look and we need to figure out, what do we keep? What do we keep but make significant changes? And what do we throw out? And what do we add? And then the other thing is, do we want to keep a format similar to this? Or is there a way to simplify it? I don't want to keep this. I can tell you right now, you know, that is really hard to look at. And I see a lot of people shaking their heads. So, okay. And then alignment, again, we've got 3 strategies, which the number of strategies is great. So I think that, you know, we can kind of look for this similar number of strategies. Now, under each strategy, they have a couple action items. And there, you know, I cannot tell you, I've been involved in this, creating an inventory of workforce partners in the state. I think, Milt, we've done that, what, 5 times probably, at least? So, yeah.
Well, Nancy, the problem with that is not only identifying those partners, but keeping it relevant and current.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody has to be the keeper of that asset list or asset map or whatever you want to call it. There has to be an entity that's going to keep it up to date and put it in a useful format. So, asset map. Yeah, that's the next one. Okay. So that is, in a nutshell, what the strategic plan was. And so we need to look at what it's going to be. And it's not a short-term thing. We're not going to get very far this meeting, okay? One of the things that we have done in the past, and many of you on the call have been involved in this, and that is to have a work group so that we are able to really dig in and get things done in a way that is, we're able to then come back and present to this group. So I would ask for volunteers to be on a work group for this purpose. And then the work group would meet like once a month. I think we're good with once a month. And unless somebody gives us a different deadline. And so I'm gonna ask.
Nancy, this is Edward for the
Yeah,
record. Just some backgrounder for everybody. The state plan that went to the federal government, actually, the way it was written was fairly broad base. So the biggest goal was to take these and break them up into what we call bite-sized doable things that we could, at the end of the day, go 3 years later, say, we went and attempted these things. And then when we go back and make these reports back to that state report, it actually shows positive gains on that state report from the federal government. So we don't break the federal funding. And at the same time, at the end of the day, we are able to achieve better unification, better efficiency within our workforce system. So that's kind of in essence what this was supposed to be, what we call the short plan that was applicable to each person. So I do agree with you, Nancy, that I think maybe we can break this up into teams of 3 with each one of those categories that you have out there. Evaluate how realistic any of them are to begin with. Is it even a good plan or good strategy? Let's start with that. And then even if we do identify outside sources like NSHE and all these other organizations that we don't have, there's no bite, there's no way to enforce it, at least mention it. But these are organizations that we can at least seek to create connections and relationships with, to over time get them to play with the whole system. But then whatever we do, we have to try to do within the system first, and then figure out how to bring people from the outside in. I think that's the best way I can probably try to organize this in my head to make sense of it, to kind of get it to move. So I think just having 3 teams of 3 meet, and then basically us going through, breaking down each one of these, and then coming back and taking a meeting, one whole meeting, one group will just present what they're doing. And in the next meeting, another group will present what they're doing, and that kind of stuff. Because I think at that point, we're going to be better off to getting this done and executed better. Thank you.
So Nancy Olson, for the record, the concern that I would have with having 3 groups is the overlap between these. I don't want one group working on something that then makes a significant difference to what another group's doing. I think that we also have a pretty small group here. So as far as volunteers, I'm not sure we would have enough volunteers to do 3 groups. So others' opinions?
I was just going to add, I agree kind of with Edward as you were sharing the specific items and talking about the partners where there's no teeth. I thought like a targeted partner agency or something like that, like a list of who might we talk to and include in this, but like sort of separating out some of those categories a little bit from like who is potentially responsive and versus who would also be like, someone that we would want to maybe involve. As far as the number of groups, I think the challenge for me maybe before that would be among all of these different items, sorting them into however many buckets it is. If it's, if we have enough people for 3 groups, like just how do we group and identify and go through things? Because I know, like, from my perspective, what I would be involved with, like, there's a piece over here and a piece over here and a piece over here. So none of them are like 2 or 3 or 4, but it's like, 2A and 3B and 5Q are the things where I feel like I could contribute. So that distinction first might help me.
Thank you. I brought over, let me know if you can see just a Word document.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. So I brought over what is in the currently approved state plan. And because there's nothing that says we have to stay with that, except for the fact that if we want it to drive the implementation of the elements in the state plan, then we should stick with what's in the state plan as a starting point. So, if we're looking at that, we've got population, we've got alignment, we've got collaboration, and then we've got, oh no, I guess it's just 3. It was somewhere where it said 4 overarching goals, but it's only 3. So I'm wondering, I mean, I do agree that we need to look at the strategic plan as to what's valuable, what's not, what we want to keep, what we want to get rid of, what we need to add. And as much as I would, like to split up the work, I do think we're looking at a lot of overlap, and that worries me. So, other suggestions?
Well, what I was thinking is like even within the other work groups that there were, like the barriers in committee that was going on that was completely separate from us, the conversations were almost identical, I would say. There was a ton of overlap. And a lot of initiatives were being discussed and proposed that were either different or like it's like we were both working on the same thing but separately. It kind of felt like that. I feel like these 3 points are something that we kind of want to dig in together, especially as in the experts per each team, as opposed to breaking it up. I think when it comes to collaboration, I don't really know that well what like Brett's team is doing. So I would really want Brett and one from my team, so that everybody can then discuss how the system would work on the ground. So I think breaking the silos is really what the work of the board and the work that we're doing here is breaking the silos between all of us, all the different agencies. And so in my opinion, keeping us together would probably be a little bit more fruitful in the conversations.
Thank you. And I did not pay her to say that. So let me ask you then this, maybe this is a good place to start. Can I see, this is really gonna put people on the spot, I'm sorry. Can I see a show of hands of who would be willing to be on a work group? Two, 3, 4, 5, 6, a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 with me. Okay. Edward, knowing that there's 7 on a work group, are you still thinking we should split it up?
No, I mean, I was just thinking if we were splitting it up, that would be the efficient way. But if we are having challenges with it, then I think, and we need to work more collectively as a whole group, then I think whoever this work group is needs to probably attack an item. Like, let's say the first one is on the very first one, and we talk about it collectively as a group, and that same work group will end up attacking item 2 and item 3 later on anyway. So then if there's any overlap, we'll be able to catch it that way. So I'm fine with it. I just didn't know whether you were trying to be efficient and trying to break it up in teams to come back and report this so that we're and you know, I think that first and foremost what needs to happen is stronger communication as opposed to going fast. So I'm fine with it. I mean, I think going fast is what got us in this mess to begin with.
I agree. Nancy also over there, I agree. Tiffany, if I have everyone raise their hands again, can you take a note on who all?
Yes.
And of course, include me. Where am I? For some reason, I don't have access to raise my hand. So just pretend my hand is raised here. We'll do it this way. Okay.
I'm in the same boat. I was frantically looking because I feel tech challenged right now.
It's in the React section. If you click the icon with the heart on your bottom,
Yeah,
you'll
mine's
find a
gone.
raise hand.
Mine is gone. There is no.
Well, you're the host. You can't raise your hand if you're the host.
Oh, is that why? Okay, there we go. Thank you. All right.
You want me to stop sharing your screen?
No, well, actually, we can stop sharing my screen just because we've done what I really want to accomplish by sharing my screen. So again, Nancy Olson, for the record, what I will do is I will send out to the work group the 2 documents that I showed. And then with Tiffany's help, we will schedule a meeting in the next month and get started. Sound good?
Yeah. And Nancy, this is Edward for the record again. And maybe after the work group is done with each section, then that following, whenever we have the larger group meeting, we present it. And if there's at that point opinions or thoughts that others who weren't in the work group have, that's an opportunity for them to kind of chime in. And then also knowing while we're in that work group, if there are people that we need to make sure need to see this at the end of the day before we all bless it, we should probably make a notation who should see it and get their input. So that way, again, we don't end up back in the same place where we are now.
Exactly. Yes. Nancy Olson for the record. Yes, I absolutely agree. We have representatives from Title I, Title II, sort of Title III, although John's not on today. I might rope him into being on the work group. And then TANF. I don't think we have anyone from VR on this group.
Yeah. Is Drazen good to put in here?
He may
or somebody from his team.
Yeah, we may be we may have to go looking for that, and I can do that. That's not a problem. But so the work group, one thing that you should know is we found from working on the state plan that the work group did not have to be subcommittee members. So we will if we need to add a couple people, I don't want to get the work group any bigger than that, but to make sure that we have the coverage for all of the core partners, if we need to add a couple people, then we'll do that. Okay.
Hey, Nancy.
Yes.
I put the question in the chat, but because I don't know the answer. And it was like, especially with so many members of the subcommittee talking about being in this work group, are there any concerns or considerations for having a quorum of the members of this subcommittee all active as members of the work group? Because I know sometimes too many of the same people talking can constitute a meeting of the committee and then cause open meeting law issues.
Nancy Olson, for the record, I will please ask David Gardner to weigh in on this.
Hi, this is Deputy Attorney General David Gardner. Yes, that would be a concern. whenever you have a quorum and you're discussing something, like it sounds like you'll be doing during the work group, that would need to be a meeting. So you'd have to follow the same open meeting law requirements for the work group as well, unless you did it with a smaller chunk of people that is less than quorum of this subcommittee, in which case, if it's less than a quorum, then you guys could just hold it. And that'd probably be considered a non-meeting. So depending on how you guys want to do it. If all of you are here, then yes, I would say it's a meeting and you'd need to follow the same kind of format.
Okay, okay, thank you. And Tiffany, can you tell by the raised hands whether or not that would be a quorum?
Yes. Because
Yes,
I'm
it
showing,
would.
yes, it would be.
It would be a quorum. Well, that's a problem. Okay.
So maybe the option is just shrink it down a little bit and sort of like
Yeah.
topically, like as there's something that affects, you know, these 5 people, they can get together and meet and talk about it. And you know,
Right.
if I'm not in the room or Droslin's not in the room, like it probably will only take shrinking it down as long as we know like what the maximum size we can have is to work on it and discuss it.
Yeah, for sure.
So Nancy, this is Edward Estepona for record. So is the rule is that if there is a quorum, I mean, I thought we couldn't do any, you know, at the end of the day, none of the voting, we're not going to vote any of these stuff in. It's just discussion type of thing.
Right.
And I thought then it was going to be brought back to this bigger subcommittee where then all of the voting and everything else. So is that still, again, because I don't work for the state, I'm trying to get navigation here to figure out whether it is or it isn't. And if it is, I understand, but I just need to understand that clearly.
This is Deputy Attorney General Gardner. I can help with that. The rule is if there is quorum plus either deliberation or action. So if you have a quorum plus discussion, that counts. Like for example, if you all wanted to meet and it was just a big brainstorming thing and you grabbed all that data and just brought it back, that's not a meeting under the open meeting law because there's no deliberation. You're bringing all the information back. You're not doing anything. If the work group is going to go out, get information, analyze the information, and then provide a recommendation, that would be considered deliberation, which means you'd have to have less than a quorum. If you had more than a quorum, it'd be considered a meeting, and a meeting has to be done by the open meeting law.
Okay.
Okay. So
The definition of it has to be the open meeting law.
If that's the case, then it is at this point, it would be breaking the open meeting law if we didn't. So I still don't mind taking to 7. I mean, all we have to do is just make sure we're posting the meeting in time. I mean, people can attend and not attend. I mean, that's the only biggest challenge is making sure you're getting it posted fast enough so that it's within the time frame that this, you know, the state requirements for these open meetings are posted. So I don't see that that's necessarily a problem, is it? So the 7 on there seems like it's still doable.
Nancy Olson for the record, it's certainly possible. The dates for this subcommittee have been published. I don't know how widespread they've been published. I know that something was sent out to us as board members. But I don't know whether adding to those dates is an issue as long as it's posted.
So Edward Estepona record. Tiffany, do you recall what the schedule is or the cadence of these meetings? And so that means all we're going to need to do is add in between all these meetings, the work group meetings will have to be added into it.
Yes, so it's pretty much after 2 months, then you have another meeting. So
Okay.
March, June, September, and December.
Okay.
Or we can schedule in between that.
Yeah, we can schedule those other ones in between then for these work groups so that we don't break any open meeting laws.
Nancy also for the record. So it is currently scheduled quarterly. And if we're talking about monthly, then yeah, we would just have to post do that.
It's doable.
Yeah.
Start it in April.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I think so, David, to be safe, since it's not an action item on today's agenda, can we decide on a day and time? Or if we keep the same day and time, are we okay that way?
I think the easiest way to be, or the easy way to do this would be just have Tiffany reach out to everybody and get dates. Because if you have staff do it, that's not an action of this committee. Thus, it's not subject to the open meeting law. So if you have Tiffany do it, I don't think you're not going to run into the issue. So I think that's the easiest way to do it.
That sounds good. Tiffany, are you okay with that?
Yes.
Thank you.
I can coordinate with you.
Okay, great, great. Okay, well, that sounds good. Appreciate everybody being on board. This may be a short meeting. So I will go ahead and move on to the next agenda item. Unless there are questions or any further discussion before we move on. Moving on to agenda item number 7 for discussion and informational item only. I would like to ask if there's any new business from subcommittee members before adjourning.
I don't know if this counts or not, but honestly, I may have a captive audience and I can't help but want to talk and share. We recently put together for use in the legislative session some reports looking at distribution of activity that Dieter has within the state, also including things like using the Pearl file and looking at the number of registrants and the profiles of some of those registrants. And like a happy side effect of this is that state legislative districts are handy because they're roughly similar in size, and so it's kind of an easy way to look at statewide differences in the distribution of some of this data. So I was going to share total of 3 links. I've put 2 in the chat right now, and I just got to go dig up the other one. But in case it's helpful or informative, or the other members find it useful, these are reports that we've brought up in agency-related testimony before the legislature. And I know when I walk in there and say, and by the way, you can see, the people that are participating in the workforce system in your district, eyes get wide and people start typing on their laptops to pull up the website. So I found it very helpful. If this helps other members of the subcommittee sort of think through or look at this, or like, hey, could we also just really kind of wanted to open the door to people sharing, asking, requesting, and engaging with the data.
Thank you, David. And I see Milt has his hand up. So.
Yeah, please, Milt Stewart for the record. So David, you mentioned, or I think what I heard you say is receiving services or something along the lines of services. Are we talking about UI services only? Are we talking about workforce development services? You mentioned the Pearl. Like, what are we talking about here?
So it's a few different things. So the first couple of links are all UI focused, but it's really handy because it's a pretty detailed list. It doesn't show up in the dashboard for confidentiality reasons, but things like what are the top occupations of people filing for unemployment benefits, the top industries of people filing for unemployment benefits, again, by area. So you can click on it and see where of the people who file benefits and are food preparation and serving workers, where are they concentrated? And it's, one in the Las Vegas Valley and two in kind of the southwest corner of it, because the districts there are small enough to see that. In the third link that I shared, the legislative district reports, that currently has profiles, like what groups have high unemployment or low labor force participation, which I know is included in the strategic planning data by legislative district. It has data on the distribution of unemployment claims, actually from a different data source, but fortunately they tell kind of the same story. So that's a good sign that the data is actually good behind the scenes. Also distribution of people participating in the workforce system. So like how many people have, how many participants are there, some of the demographic summary, like how many of the participants are single parents, veterans, disabled veterans, some things like that. Mostly counts of people, like looking at like performance outcomes or things like that gets so far off into like hard to aggregate. Counting the number of people affected seemed to be a good way to tell the story of like, what are we doing in your district, as well as like the top industries and occupations that people are coming from. Like, before entry, what was your industry? After exit, what's your industry? It's like, where are people coming from? Where are they going? I'm also in the process of adding in data for VR. So how many participants? What's their case aging? How long is it from application to eligibility determination? So trying to get, again, at the district level, so even better than statewide. So I think sometimes we talk, here's the statewide outcome and eyes glaze over because it's too big to think about. But when we say like, in your district, here's what the program looks like, even though the trends tend to be pretty similar across districts, I think having more local data helps people engage with it a little bit more. So I'm hoping to go there. And honestly, I would love to wrap in other data or better understand the data that I'm using. Like, oh, hey, we could also do this. So that's my other goal of sharing it is looking for ideas, because this was just stuff that I thought I could pretty reasonably add up and be accurate about, but making it more useful would certainly be a great goal. And because it's our own website, it's really easy to update.
If I can ask a follow-up question. So, David, I'm looking at one of the reports, and what about a comparative analysis amongst all the districts and which one is the highest and that type of thing?
Yep. I actually had started to do that and put it onto a map so you can see like, where are the concentrations of things throughout the districts. But the way that I made it was programmatically inefficient, and it took about 2 minutes to load, and I didn't want to send a legislator to a page and have them go, well, this is nothing's popping up, and navigate away. So I first prioritized what can I get that you click and it's there. I think if you look at the unemployment claims stuff, that is fast and responsive. So I think I can take that and then apply it back. But certainly I think comparison between districts, I think, is also a very helpful way to see like where this is. Another potential application is, we're rolling out a new unemployment benefit system sometime this summer. And so one of the questions is like, hey, where are the claimants? Where are they located? We can do that kind of analysis with this data too. It's like, hey, it's, if you want to reach this type of claimant, people with less than a high school degree, here's where they are.
Yeah, that Nancy Olson for the record. Yeah, you were talking about our population. Have you used Empower for your purposes at all or not?
So this is all not using Empower. This is just internal data sources that we have here on the Dieter side. But like the unemployment claim data here is actually something that one of my goals as we're working, so we have a new Empower manager, is to get more of our data into Empower. And I hope to make that a source for data about unemployment claimants, because it also helps then give us a more robust picture of that unemployed population. So sort of on top of the Pearl and some other things, like building the data that we have about the people in the system so that it is out there and available too.
Nancy Olson for the record, couple things that you reminded me might be good to mention here. We just got approval for a contract amendment with our data vendor for adult education that will allow us to build an interface with employee envy. And so we're going to be able to, in almost real time, it'll be like overnight, we'll be able to share data, both demographics, outcome testing, et cetera, with our core partners and vice versa. So it's really exciting, very exciting. It's going to take us a long way towards meeting that alignment and collaboration type goals. And then the other thing is that we recently had some research done, specifically focusing on adult education, and we are expecting any day now the report on that. And the way that the initial results looked, it showed a pretty good return on investment for adult education individuals. And so I'm excited to share that as well. So we will let you know when that comes out and send it out widely, since it's good news. Yeah, thank you. Hey, anybody else? All right, well, in that case, I will go ahead and move to adjourn our meeting.
Thank you, everybody. See you later.
Thank you. We'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Did we have the second public comment? Did I miss that?
No, we didn't.
Dang it. Okay, sorry, I was a little too slow. I was trying to unmute myself. Okay, well, it's too late now, but is there anybody? Did you guys have any public comment at the beginning?
No. But she did do the public comment in the beginning.
Okay. I guess I'm gonna ask anyways. Anybody online that wants to do public comment? Okay, hearing none. Sorry, I was too slow. Okay, thanks, Tiffany. Talk to you later.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.